It's time to feel what you've been bottling up. Life in rural America isn't easy. The long hours, the constant pressures, the demands of the land, livestock, and family, it all takes a toll. We're tough and we've got grit, but somewhere along the way, toughness started meaning bottling up emotions and powering through. But here's the truth. That strategy, it's not working and it's poisoning us. Maybe you've noticed and maybe you haven't, but the numbers don't lie. We're breaking down and it's showing up in our bodies, our relationships, and in the rising suicide rates in agriculture. You don't have to carry any of it alone. There's another way. If you're ready to stop being weighed down and start moving forward, my one-on-one good movement guidance is now open. Visit the link in the show notes to learn more and see if one-on-one guidance could be for you.
I'll carry you, you carry me, we'll help each other through it. Come on and say good movement draws good movement.
Welcome to Good Movement Draws Good Movement, the podcast where farmers, ranchers, and rural folks can grow relationally through awareness, understanding, and effective communication. Hey, it's T. I'm your host, and I, along with my guests, will be covering topics related to drawing good movement. Things like self and social awareness, brain science, positive psychology, extending grace, and so much more. We'll share tools that can help you understand why you are the way you are, why others are the way they are, and how you can use that to step out of self-told lies with grace and compassion to draw good movement in conversations, relationships, and life in rural America. Let's go draw good movement. T, I gotta tell ya, whenever you talk about good movement, all I can think about is poop. This candid and sort of hilarious comment came from a friend as we drove down a highway in Texas on our way home from a trip where I talked a lot about good movement. And I could have been completely offended that my newly realized life's purpose elicited thoughts of bowel movements for my friend. But I really wasn't, because the truth is, any way you slice it, you can't force it and have it be good movement. But now I'm also kind of curious, what do you think of when you hear the phrase good movement? Well, in case you're wondering, it's not pooping. So if not poo, then just what is good movement? Well, that's what we're going to dive into here in this, the very first episode of the Good Movement Draws Good Movement podcast, which, by the way, I am so happy and excited to be putting out into the world. And I am forever grateful that you're tuning into. Now, on to the topic at hand. In terms of stockmanship, the art and science of handling livestock in a safe, effective, low-stress manner, good movement is what happens when we ask a small group of cattle, or maybe just even a single cow, to move out in a certain direction, and their movement draws the next cow and the next, until pretty soon the whole herd is drawn into moving in the same direction. That's good movement. And good movement draws good movement. But for a little more illustration and a little bit of story time, here we go. One August morning in the year of our Lord, 2016, I volunteered to move our herd of cattle. It was the type of morning that beautifully hints that fall is on its way, and fall is my favorite. So, of course, I volunteered. When I got to the pasture, I kicked my stock dog out and we started the first little group of pairs moving in the direction of the fresh pasture. Then I sat back and I watched as the other cows picked up their calves and trailed off 2 by 2, following the leaders across the pasture and through the gate. And as I sat there watching, I began reflecting on that phrase, good movement draws good movement. I was out there all alone, no other humans. It was literally just me and my little stock dog Spaz. And the pair of us were moving several hundred cows with their calves across a couple hundred acres. And we were doing it all by ourselves. We couldn't have done that without fostering good movement. We could not have moved that large of a herd or even one pair without a firm grasp of bovine behavior and an understanding of how to use that to effectively communicate with them. I mean, sure, we could have forced them. We could have gotten louder, pushed harder, and made them move to the next pasture, but that would have ended poorly for all parties involved. Pairs split up, vocal cows and calves, a dog running herself ragged, a severely frustrated and pissed off human, possibly a run back, and probably a giant mess and fence to fix the next day. Instead, we chose to come in with a positive attitude, to read and really listen to what the cattle were telling us. We chose to use language, body language, of course, they understood. We chose to ask kindly and say please with pressure and thank you with release. We chose good movement. Now, if you'll recall, 2016 was also a hotly contested election year. I mean, pretty much every election year is hotly contested, but this one felt different, a little hotter with social media and the 24-hour news cycle at play for the first time in history. Anyway, by the time August rolled around, the internet was abuzz with bickering, name-calling, arguing, and conflict. And some of the mainstream media outlets seemed to only fuel the hate fires like it was their job. The world felt very loud and the social interactions within it very uncomfortable. It was for sure my Enneagram 9 tendencies coming out in me that morning, but in my reflection, I couldn't help but wonder what would happen. What would happen if we applied the same stockmanship principles of good movement, not to cattle, but to humans? If we could communicate effectively enough with one cow that her movement drew the whole herd into moving with her, could the same be true for humans? Could one interaction led with kindness and resulting in constructive conversation draw more kindness and constructive conversation? If good movement draws good movement in cattle, was it possible that the same is true for humans? My conclusion was not only is this principle applicable to humans, but it's also absolutely necessary. At the start of this podcast, you heard me say that good movement was my life's purpose. And you just heard me refer to myself as an Enneagram 9. If you're not sure what the Enneagram is, let alone what it means to be a 9, the Enneagram is a personality typing system that's rooted in our motivations or the why behind our behaviors. We'll talk more in future episodes about what the Enneagram is, but for right now, what I need you to know is that type 9s on the Enneagram are motivated by keeping the peace. They are very conflict averse individuals who will do just about anything to avoid it. As a type 9, I do not handle conflict well. Any sort of perceived or legitimate conflict elicits a visceral reaction in me. I immediately turn into a stressed, sweaty mess with a gut ache and a strong desire to scream, "Can't we all just get along?" So, my reason for thinking that good movement is not only applicable to humans, but also absolutely necessary, and adopting it as my life's purpose is definitely selfish. I selfishly want everyone to adopt the principles for good movement in their daily lives because I'd really love to sweat a lot less and not develop an ulcer. There, I said it. Okay, well, it is true. I selfishly want everyone to adopt this principle. There's also a much more altruistic side to my reasoning, and that is the incredible benefits that are the byproducts of good movement. Speaking in terms of livestock, when we focus on gaining good movement from our animals every time we interact with them, in effect, we're eliminating meaningless stress on the animals and ourselves too. And what results isn't just time and labor saving herd moves that go more quickly and efficiently with minimal effort, but also overall improved herd health and increased performance. When we focus on good movement with our fellow humans, we eliminate meaningless stress on them and ourselves too. Communication becomes more effortless and conversations more constructive. Performance increases, our relationships and probably our health improve, and we all move forward. So now that we've established good movement is what we're after, what's our holdup? The principle of good movement seems simple enough. Go in there with a positive attitude, listen and communicate accordingly. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Well, sort of. It is simple, but it's not easy. Believe you me, there have been multiple occasions when my husband and I, or one or the two of us, have headed out intent on making a herd move only to turn around and come home because our minds weren't right. No joke. We've literally saddled up our horses, loaded them on the trailer, driven out to the pasture, and turned around and come back home because there was no way the movement we were going to make was going to be good that day. We could have made all those moves we never attempted. But as I said, the result wouldn't have been good movement because good movement doesn't happen when we have a grouch on or we're unwilling to understand. It doesn't happen with a bad attitude or a heavy hand. And it most certainly does not happen if we try to force it. This is true of cattle. The same is true of people. Humans, bovines, or bowels. We can't force it and have it be good movement. And that's what this podcast is all about. Each week, we're going to break down how we can draw good movement in our lives, relationships, and interactions. Sometimes it will be just me, T, all by my lonesome, talking about good movement. And other times, I'll have a guest with me, and we will be talking about how they draw good movement in their own lives. So I hope you tune in every week and draw good movement with us. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm so grateful for you. If you found value in this episode, I'd love for you to share with others who might also benefit from tuning in. Share by word of mouth, send it in a text, take a screenshot and post it on social media, or share however you prefer. And if you haven't already, hit the follow or subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Until next time, draw good movement.